Welcome back to the Stories of Northern Life podcast, brought to you by the Sault Ste. Marie Museum. I'm your host, Nicole, and in today's episode of Reading History, I bring you an article from the magazine or journal, Sault Channels, published by the Sault Ste. Marie District Branch, Ontario Genealogical Society. The article I am reading today is about the House of Refuge in the Sault, and it is published in the fall of 1994. And in this article, some old, maybe some politically incorrect language is used. So just a warning that some terms can be difficult for some listeners. This article was submitted by Iris E. Elliot, and as I said, it was published in the fall 1994 issue of Sault Channels. So let's get into the article. The House of Refuge, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. The need for the House of Refuge was first brought to the attention of the people of the Sault and the district in 1914 by Dr. Alexander S. Sinclair. When serving as a city alderman in 1912 and 1913 and dealing with charitable works of the city, he saw a need to provide for the indigent. At the time, aged persons without means of supporting themselves were committed to the district jail. It was to end this condition that Dr. Sinclair proposed the building of the House of Refuge. This project was supported by the passage in 1913 of an Ontario statute providing for the establishment of homes for old people in a district where a majority of municipalities passed bylaws to provide for the erection and maintenance of such a house. Further, the government might make a grant to the cost not exceeding $4,000 if the house had acquired 45 acres of land and used it with the house. This aided Dr. Sinclair in his endeavor. He began by convincing a majority of the municipalities of the District of Algoma to pass a bylaw authorizing the trustees of the House of Refuge to collect from them according to their assessment the money required for the erection and maintenance of this institution. The municipalities could send there any persons entitled to be taken care of as inmates of the House of Refuge. The government agreed to provide 7 cents per day per inmate towards the cost of maintenance. Trustees Dr. Sinclair of the Sault and ex-mayor James Lyons of Steelton hoped that inside of 3 years the institution would be self-supporting. When supplied with stock and implements to carry on farming, market, gardening, etc., so that as far as possible, the burden might be lifted from municipalities. The land acquired in 1914 were 80 acres purchased from Andrew Brown. Another 20 acres were acquired in 1917 from Adam Mueller, with a further 20 acres acquired in 1922 from Robert Bridges and Richard Latimer. The final 20 acres were acquired in 1933 from Thomas J. Macaulay, making a total of 140 acres in all. The proposed building, 40 feet by 110 feet of solid brick, 2.5 stories high, and modern throughout, was expected to accommodate 50 inmates. Its location on Great Northern Road, about 1.5 miles from the city, was selected by the government representative as the most suitable in the surrounding countryside on account of its excellent drainage, splendid location, and fertile soil. In March 1914, the trustees announced that the contract for the construction of the House of Refuge had been awarded to the McPhail and Wright Construction Company of the Sault, whose tender of $29,215 was the lowest of those submitted. Among other firms submitting tenders were McIntyre, Haining and Kelly, D. Janison and Son, G. Woolrich, A. de Apollonia, Abelson and Wright, B.M. Wiley, and A.D. McNabb. In all, a total of 10 tenders were submitted, ranging from a low of $29,215 to a high of $45,766. Contract for the plumbing was awarded to E.H. Barnes and Company. Other tenders were Cochrane Hardware Limited and the Ideal Plumbing Company. Work would commence as soon as the frost was out of the ground. On the 4th of December 1914, the House of Refuge, completed at a cost of $40,000, was opened by Sir William Hearst, Premier of Ontario. Accompanying him to the Sioux was Bruce Smith, Inspector of Public Institutions, who declared the local House of Refuge to be the equal of any similar building in the province and the first in Canada to be erected by an unorganized district. The first inmates were 8 persons removed from the district jail. In 1916, the Sioux was assessed a half a mill, which raised $5,244, but for 1917, a levy of about $8,500 was required, which translated to 8/10 of a mill or over $3,000 more. The average number of inmates was 40, and about 3/4 of these were from the Sioux. The Board of Management claimed to give the inmates plenty to eat. The fact that only $2,042 was spent for groceries, meat, and vegetables, or about $1 a week for each inmate, would hardly bear out that assessment. However, the explanation is that the house now raised a good deal of its own food. Although food was plentiful, there appeared to be very little variety. Bread, potatoes, and porridge were staples. By October 1919, the Government of Ontario decided to build a 6-room addition to the House of Refuge at a cost of $10,000 to temporarily take care of mental defectives awaiting transfer to an Ontario hospital. W.W. Dunlop and F.C. Williams of the Department of Public Charities determined that the addition would be located in the rear of the building, going straight back from the present kitchen, as that location there would be the best supply of light and sunshine. This addition would provide 3 rooms for males and 3 rooms for females. There is to be a trained nurse in charge and 1 orderly under the direction of the superintendent, Mr. T. Bishop. Mr. Dunlop stated that the nurse is to be a graduate of one of the Ontario hospitals who has completed a 3-year course, including a 6-month course in surgery at the General Hospital in Toronto. The interior floors and walls in the addition will be made of tile manufactured in the government plant at Mimico, and the plans drawn by Mr. James Govan, an institutional architect who drew the plans for the Whitby Hospital. This addition was still being discussed as late as 1922. In 1920, the Board of Management was increased from 2 to 5 members, including newcomers William O'Brien, R.M. Moore, and Norman Pace. In 1923, when the Honorable James Lyons resigned from the board, his place was taken by T.H. McGill, and J.A. Hussey replaced the late Mr. O'Brien. When Thomas Bishop died in 1927, Albert Little of Thessalon was appointed superintendent. In 1934, the 140 acres of land surrounding the refuge produced a harvest of 2,183 bushels of grain, 865 bags of potatoes, and 3,000 bushels of turnips. There was a splendid herd of cattle, fine horses, and poultry. Farming at the home was discontinued in 1969. By 1935, there were 94 inmates, 70 men, and 24 women. Over the early years, the ratio of men to women was in the nature of 3 or 4 to 1. On the 16th of April, 1935, Dr. Sinclair, after 20 years of service, was retired by the Honorable D. Kroll, Minister of Public Welfare, from his position as a member of the Board of Management for the House of Refuge, to be replaced by Dr. A. Shepard. Dr. Sinclair submitted his resignation as manager and house physician immediately. By this time, the board included R. M. Moore, T. H. McGill, Norman Pace, and J. Hussey, as well as Dr. Sinclair. In 1947, legislation renamed Houses of Refuge as Homes for the Aged and substituted the name resident for inmate. The year 1955 saw the construction of new bed care and special care sections. The home now had normal care, bed care, and special care units. It was at this time that the institution acquired the name of F.J. Davy Home for the Aged. Not until 1977, with the addition of 66-bed unit, was the original 1914 structure demolished and the name House of Refuge to disappear completely. So there is our article for this week. I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and that was actually the history of how the Davy home came to be, and sort of, I guess, the subsequent retirement and nursing homes that we have in the Sioux. So there is a little piece of local history. Thanks for listening. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, you might like our blog too. Head over to our website, Sioux Museum, that's SAULT museum.ca, and look under Discover. You will find our blog, Museum Musings. We share short synopsis of influential people, historic places, and impactful events in our history. Pictures are always included, and you will be sure to learn a little something new with each post.
Hi, I'm J.L. Fizzell, and I write and publish poetry inspired by nature and the art of being human. These are some of my words. I really love nature because it's so connected to itself, to past, present, future. It's poet gold. So this poem is from my third book, North of Dreams, and it's called Soulful Earth. This land is so much more than you'll ever see with a glance. The things that live around us thrive on the nutrients of things that are made up of bits of the past. That's why you can find faces hidden in the bark of trees. I hope that this poem took you somewhere inside yourself that you needed to go. You can listen to my story here on the Stories of Northern Life podcast. Links are in the show notes.